I think that's it. No, that's it. I believe that's it.
Give me some tissue, Tyler.
Well, I believe we're there now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is the Motivator Show alongside, and she's well, Lady Chelsea.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
How are you feeling there, Lady Chelsea, huh?
I feel good.
Oh, that's what we want to hear. Strong and vibrant, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's what we want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see you and welcome back. Yeah, welcome back. Thank you. Now, let's get the show on the way because it'll be another interesting show. You missed another, eventful show last week.
I hear. Yeah.
You're here, huh? That's because you weren't here. The good omens you bring. Good omens, you know? Okay.
I'll take that. Cool.
Right. Okay. I'm going to move on from that now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me give praise and thanks to Iron King, who's taken us from night to day. An appreciation to you, Iron King, for your work, steadfast in the face of real adversity. He's here every week, taking us from 2 o'clock in the morning right through to 8 o'clock this morning. Huh? Mm-hmm. I want to give praise to Rastafari to him. Yeah. Long may he stay strong and healthy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, such people, they're worth their weight in computer chips, which are far more valuable than gold bullion. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
You are, you know? I must appreciate you.
Sorry.
Okay. And let me also, of course, give praise and appreciation to the Galaxy management, those visionary leaders in the community who's translated words into action, started this station more than 35 years ago, and we're going strong today. I want to give praise and recognition to Chipa Kombabai, the founder and leader of Galaxy Radio, Elder Erakute, the elder whose wisdom knows no bound, Abu Ratata, that stalwart, that dedicated follower of this station and an integral part of the management of this station, Empress Shanice, the Shalusan finder. Such people, again, are worth their weight in computer chips, yeah? Solution finding is upmost in our mind. We're not victims, you know? We're not under sufferance. We have the power to effect change. So solution finders are an essential part of our success mentality. I give praise to the Empress Shanice. And of course, not forgetting the little most royal, that stalwart, that pilot has been here right from the very beginning. I will give recognition to Nickel, the most loyal. Praise Jah, Rastafari, to my Nickel. Much appreciation to you and the work that you do for the station. I also, of course, never forgetting why the station, despite all the enthusiasm, the energy of those I've mentioned, has continued today. It is because, of course, of the technology that we've employed to ensure that this station continues. FM, internet radio, YouTube, Facebook, and other social media platforms we are now being transmitted via. And that is because of the engineers, the technologists who ensure that we are up with the times and we're able to adapt in a really fit way to ensure that this station continues to flourish. So I want to give praise to the engineers who ensure that we've continued to today and we will continue to go from strength to strength. Yeah, I give praise to them. Okay, and of course, Didi Ishua, a previous guest, and I've got to get her on. I think Chelsea in December. She reminded us Africa's wealth is not in the raw materials which Africa as in abundance, yeah? It's the technologies that derive from those raw materials, okay? I assert, and I know you would agree, that Africa shouldn't sell raw materials. It should only sell the technologies that derive from those raw materials. Raw materials you can sell at a dime a dozen, but the technologies, you know, oh my gosh, they're worth many times more than the raw materials, okay? That's where the wealth is, and that's what we as Africa need to gain a complete stranglehold over. Take the technologies. That is what will take us forward, and that's where the wealth will be found, okay? That's my assertion. I'd like to put together a thesis on that point, and I will soon enough, and I'll share it with the rest of the world. Okay, and of course, it's important to remember that you recall a previous guest we had here, the professor who discussed the Rapid Africa Plan. Okay, and of course, the Rapid Africa Plan is not about generating wealth; it's about educating. It's about ensuring the economies are strong and can compete with other economies around the world, that Africa can take its rightful place amongst the economies of the world. Yeah. So, Professor Hennington, we are looking out for you. We are looking out for you. Okay. And what we want you to do, Professor, is to take us forward. And forgive the background noise. Well, what I also want to do, if I may, I want to encourage people to think about the Rapid Africa Plan. You can put it into your search engine and you can find Rapid Africa Plan. Okay, please do so, and you'll find a great deal of useful information. Okay, very useful information. I'm just going to stop this noise if I can. Thank you. There we go. So let me now move on. In recognition to the galaxy management, I want to go straight into a piece of work that I'm told I should not give up on. That is health messages. Okay. Maybe I should let you do some of these health messages occasionally, huh? Oh, come on now, ladies. All we don't tell people.
Yeah.
It's important. We're not telling people. We ask people to consider. Yeah. We ask them to consider the amount of sugar that they're ingesting into their bodies. What has been found that particularly amongst people of African heritage and Asian heritage, I must say, and I say Asian because we're in Asia now. Remember, we're in Asia now. Yeah, this is a single landmass. In theory, you can walk from London to Beijing. Yeah, it's a single landmass. We are in Asia right now, but we're in Euro part of Asia. We're in Asia. Important, because we're all part of that mentality. There's almost a belief that Asia is separate island, separate from mainland Asia. But in fact, it's an integral part of mainland Asia. It's simply a region of Asia, that's all. Okay, that's right thinking. The reason why I say that is this. The more recent report has just demonstrated that amongst people of African and Asian heritage, there is an increasing epidemic of diabetes, even in this country. I normally discuss the Caribbean and parts of Africa, but actually in this country, there's an epidemic of diabetes among people of African heritage. It's not generally talked about, but every so often you see a news clip come up noting the abnormally high levels of diabetes in our communities. Okay, and that's why I give the message, because the consciousness of the diabetes epidemic is not known. And what was most unsettling about the report, that a fair proportion of those with diabetes don't know they've got it. They don't know they've got diabetes until something really catastrophic happens to them. And the doctor then does the usual test, and you discover, in addition to the other ailment you have, you also have underlying that is diabetes. Okay? And if we talked about coronavirus and all the other co-conditions, diabetes is one of those conditions that makes you particularly susceptible to the coronavirus. Okay? That's why I mentioned sugar. Sugar is one of those components that is very prevalent in our cuisines. Okay? And we need to get it under control. That is, shadow of a doubt, we need to get it under control. I know that's the way you've always done it. Yeah? You know, this is the way we've always cooked. These are the drinks we've always drank. If they're killing you, maybe we should do something different.
Yeah, that's true.
Huh?
That would make sense.
It makes sense, huh? But we're not telling you to. Consider the medium and long-term implications of excessive sugar in your diet. Do you really need the additional sugar in your teas and coffees and so on? Okay. Do you need it? How many of these canned drinks, whose brand names I will not quote, do you consume? Have you looked at the amount of sugar in those brand drinks? They may call it sucrose, but sucrose is sugar. I ask you to consider, particularly if you buy those ready prepared packs of Ovaltine and so on, They normally put a lot of sugar in it. You read the packet, you see the percent of sugar in those packages. It's amazing quantities of sugar in it.
Okay.
They are not doing us any good, particularly us, Particularly if you're not physically active, particularly so. It's not doing us any good. The levels of diabetes in our communities is frighteningly high. Okay. I'll now move on to salt, the other component, which is very hidden, usually hidden in our diet. Okay. I ask people to consider the amount of salt in your diet. Similarly, fats. I've given comparisons as to where the fat is usually found. I ask you to consider the amount of fat you are consuming. And of course, carbohydrates, usually flour or wheat products. I would again ask you to consider the amount of carbohydrate you're taking in, and of course, the impact that carbohydrate has on your body over time. Okay? So, I ask you all just to consider it for your sake, your loved one's sake, and indeed all of our sakes. I ask you to consider. I ask you to consider what the nutritionist, if they were here now, would ask you to do. Your nutritionist most probably would say to you, it's important for you to have a balanced diet. It's important for you to ensure you drink an adequate amount of water. Ideally between 2 to 3 liters, depending upon your height and size and body mass. What is right for you? Seek professional advice. Don't take it from me. Seek professional advice. They'd also say to you, encourage you to eat far more fruits and vegetables. Let them be the predominant part of your diet. Fruits and vegetables. Trace minerals. Make sure you have a good amount of those trace minerals, which are essential to our physiology. They'll of course say to you, exercise. Exercise is fundamentally important. Okay, water is important. Fruits and vegetables are important. Okay, and you keep all the other items in the right balance. Okay, if you're unsure, seek, please. I beg you all, seek professional advice. Don't take it from me, okay? What is right for me may not be right for you. Seek professional advice. Go to your GP, Go to your nutritionist. I understand you can also speak to your pharmacist, I'm going to give praise to those pharmacists who came along in previous weeks. Speak to your pharmacist. They are ideally placed to give you the professional advice after they most probably examined you and assessed what your needs are, what your physiological needs are. On the other side, of course, and on previous programs we've had here, that is, of course, it's important also to take care of your mental health. Okay? It is so important to take care of your mental health and indeed your spiritual health, and allow time for yourself, as our brethren from Nottingham would have said, Kwame from Nottingham would have said, our mental health and spiritual health are as important as our physical health. I want to give praise to Brother Kwame in Nottingham. I don't have to agree with him with everything he says, but he does talk a great deal of common sense. Okay? All right? We don't have to have complete concordance and agreement, but he does speak a great deal of common sense. That was a profound observation that he was able to share with us, So I give praise to him, and thank you, Brother Kwame, if you're listening or listening to our recordings. I recognize you. Our physical health, if exercising is really important. I talked about 5 minutes, apparently have been pulled up. I should be recommending 10 to 15 minutes, I'm told. There you are. 10 to 15 minutes.
5 minutes seems
Okay, yeah.
ridiculous.
But I've got to find my waist, Lady Chelsea. Oh, my dear.
It's not near you today.
Not unfortunately. But anyway, I have my water. That's anything.
Okay, well, that's okay.
All right. So anyway, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. So I'm really pleased that those messages are impacting on people. Okay. We're not telling you what to do. Seek professional advice. But if the epidemic of diabetes continues, it will undermine your long-term health. Yeah, if the epidemic, I've not mentioned this already, of hypertension or high blood pressure in the community continues, it will undermine your long-term health. Okay, if far too many of our community members are not exercising and are becoming couch potatoes or believing just because they go to work that they've exercised, it affects your long-term health.
Yeah.
It's so vitally important that we take care of our long-term health. Okay, vitally important. So I cannot say that with sufficient emphasis to all of you. Protecting your long-term health is critical, absolutely critical. Okay, I think I've said enough on that score now. I'm going to move on. And what I'm going to do, Lady Chelsea, can I switch the usual sequence? I was going to give recognition to past contributors to the show. Can I suggest we take the children section now and just give recognition to young Malachi? Now, are you ready for that now?
Yeah.
Let me hand over to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, this is the children's section that we do every week, and this is in promotion of young Malachi's book, which is called Tutankhamun: The Tale of the Adventurous Boy King, which is part of the prize for answering one of the 2 questions that I have correctly. It's this with £25. And this is one question I have for under 10s and one question I have for 11 to 16-year-olds. So I'll read out the number first so everyone can be prepared, and then the questions. Okay, so the number to call is 020 348 152 40, and then you'll be asked for a PIN number, which is 3707 334397, and it's followed by the hash key sign. Okay, cool. Let me just turn this up.
Are you ready? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this is the question for under 10s.
Question 1. How do you spell Tutankhamun?
So that's how do you spell Tutankhamun? And then questions for 11 to 16-year-olds.
Question 9. Who or what did the people of Kemet worship during the time of Tutankhamun?
So that's who or what did the people of Kemet worship at the time of Tutankhamun? And that's...
Okay, so we are very determined. We never give up on these questions.
Yeah, looks like it.
Okay, and if you're viewing this program via YouTube or Facebook, you should see on your screens the telephone number. So it should be visible. And Lady Chelsea, can I ask you just to repeat the telephone number and PIN number that they should use?
Yeah, okay. So the number is 020 348 152 40, and the PIN number is 370 733 4397, followed by the #Q sign.
Okay, thank you for that. And I suppose, I know we've talked about this, maybe we should, our other young man who wrote his interesting book, Words Are Wonderful, Derek Short. Yeah. Maybe we should invite him to put some questions. You never know, there might even be manageable questions as well.
They're manageable. No, I feel like the questions we have are manageable.
Okay.
Everybody has Google.
Okay, this is also true. Everybody has Google. You're quite right, and I always find it fascinating that at times when I look at the responses we've had so far, I know why it's so important to give promotion to the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools and Brother Nia, okay, because obviously we must teach our children our history. Yeah, vitally important. Yeah, vitally important. And if they have our history, okay, it means that they can hold their heads up high. I know in this country, in much of the Caribbean as well, yeah, and many countries in Africa, the history that is taught is a history that is essentially English history. Yeah, English kings and queens and monarchs. Can you imagine? Okay, it is fascinating. How many countries in Africa have a curriculum that is one that is born out of London?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a consequence, they're not taught their own history. Wow. Yeah. Can you imagine being in the Caribbean and being taught about English kings and queens, okay, and his English history, okay, but never been taught about African history? Yeah. The very foundation of humankind. Yeah. And never been taught your own history.
Yeah.
How mentally, psychologically debilitating that must be. And I discovered this is replicated in many parts of Africa as well, that they're taught history of the latter day colonialist powers rather than local history of their own civilization. How psychologically debilitating that must be for a child who then becomes an adult. It must be pretty rough. Huh?
Yeah,
pretty rough. And I can admit myself, I've been through the same education system, finding it somewhat debilitating. So of course you could very easy to fall into the trap that our ancestors, the pharaohs of Egypt, were clearly African peoples. Okay, well, and I know we've had this conversation before. You're going to laugh when I say this. That when you look at Samson Delilah on TV, or indeed the pharaohs of Europe or of Egypt, you see Elizabeth Taylor. You don't know who that is, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, what? Okay. Richard Burton. Richard Burton?
I heard of his name.
Okay, there you go. Never mind. It's a generation thing. Don't you worry.
White people.
Indeed. What you see are images of a European acting out as a representative of one of my ancestors.
Yeah.
And of course, when you see the images of the past pharaohs, okay, or queens of Egypt, they have these very straight noses. And you wonder, then they all must have been like that. But in fact, not until you realize that Napoleon and the like, whenever they encountered a nose like ours, you know what happened? They get a gun and they cut it off, shoot it off. So look at things now. You see, it's been attacked.
Yeah.
That's Napoleon's work. Many of the Egyptian statues, you see, have been defaced in that way. So the nose that looks like this is not apparent. Yeah. What kind of psychology or psychotic behavior is that, Lady Chelsea?
Yeah, it's mad.
Wow. Can you imagine? Huh? Wow. Oh, you know, it kind of takes your breath away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's a bit psychotic, huh? That's a bit psychotic, isn't it? Yeah. You have to be psychotic, you know. It's enough to evade and control the land, but to kind of overlay your image over other people's images, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit.
If I'm wrong, you know, mums or dads out there, I invite you to call in and tell me that I'm wrong. No, it's quite all right. Tell me it's okay. Let's have that dialogue. I'd love to have that dialogue with those who believe what I've just said is wrong. I think it's a bit psychotic. You have to be pretty mad to do such things. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And they had hundreds of years to burn many of our manuscripts or our written words. They burnt them. Or they're now in secret museums that you can't get access to. The British Museum is the custodian of a vast amount of African art.
Yeah.
They refuse to give back to Africa.
Yeah.
Huh? Is that mad?
Yeah, no, it's quite mad.
Oh, that's completely mad. Completely mad. So it is interesting to observe. It is truly interesting. Okay. And of course, even this subject we're going to discuss today, climate change, part 2. Okay. They've even attempted to completely dominate the discussion. This climate change affects the entire world equally. Yeah. And each continent must have spokesperson who we give particular publicity to. So each continent feels responsibility to combat runaway climate change that harms the environment. And most certainly, Lady Chelsea, forgive me for saying this, your generation will inherit.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And I noticed that even here in the British press, they attempt to, oh my gosh, focus on a single young lady. Very nice young lady, nothing wrong with her, don't misunderstand me. But she's usually surrounded by equally wonderful young ladies from different continents of the world. But this British press or media focuses on one. Why? I suppose because generally the owners of the media and press and so on, because she looks like them. Now that's the only reason why they're doing it. How childish can you get?
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Yeah.
It almost takes your breath away. Childishness. Oh my gosh. Now, with that kind of attitude, do we have a future as a species? We are but one family, ultimately. You know? We are but one family. We are a single species. There is no such thing as race. There are ethnic groups of the human family. You know, when I say ethnic group, what I'm actually relating is that, you know, we develop our own cuisines, our own traditions, and so on, in regionalized influences and so on. Okay. But we are all genetically the same. We are but one people. We are a single species. And to have the British or European press behave in such a manner on what is our most critical subject, it is somewhat disappointing, to say the least. And I lament them, and I actually feel quite sorry for them. So the bottom line is that with African peoples, those of us with African heritage, must discuss climate change, okay, and its implications for us as a people, but certainly on the continent, the mother continent of Africa, and of course across the Caribbean, Europe, and beyond, okay. And we must demonstrate an ability to take the lead in this most critical of subjects, okay. Mm-hmm. So it's quite evident after the kind of false start last week, which was slightly offset. You weren't here, Lady Chelsea, but anyway.
Okay.
After last week, I felt that it was important to have a part two. Mm-hmm. Because at least two, I guess, are here already, and a few more. I know that the others are having some communication problem, but what was important is that with Africans are discussing the subject in depth, not only from the point of view of the implications for climate change, for ourselves, our families, the continent, and the world, but also putting forward constructive solutions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We've got a wonderful Empress, Sister Empress here, Shanice. I love her so much, you know, because she just discusses solutions. We must find solutions. Enough moaning about the subject. Solutions, solutions, solutions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've got endless patience for her. You know, and I know there's a sister here, Sister Sura, who I know is only concerned with solutions, you know.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Lady Chelsea, someone who I know, yeah, who's been in public life here in this country, you know.
Yeah. And
she earned my respect a number of decades ago. Oh my gosh. You know. Okay. Mm-hmm. And of course, last week, because of these difficulties, our brother from Zimbabwe couldn't quite connect, but he is now connected. There you are. See that smile, huh? You see her smiling, huh? Thank you for being here, both of you. Perseverance, you're here as well. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah? And hopefully the other two colleagues will join us imminently. I'll check with them in a moment. But I'm pleased that you both agreed to come back again for part two. And part two, whilst we'll do a quick recap of last week, I really hope we were able to look at practical projects which are concerned with solutions, our response to climate change. Okay, we're not simply victims, you know. We can take control of the situation and remedy and mitigate the impact of climate change in Africa, Caribbean, and beyond. Okay, and I look forward to that dialogue. And last week you didn't have the pleasure of Lady Chelsea, but she's here this week, and she provides that young person's perspective on the subject. Okay, and she would ask questions which I know from experience are always very fruitful. Okay, there you are. Huh?
All right. Thanks.
Okay, so let us. I think we can begin. If that's okay.
Okay.
If I can invite both my sister Aruda Sua. Did I pronounce your name correctly? I say. Oh, you're in silence. You're muted.
Yes, you pronounced it correctly.
Thank you. You're so kind. And of course, Perseverance. We can't see you at the moment, Perseverance. Yeah.
Yes, I'm there.
Javangwe. Have I pronounced that correctly? And I want to apologize in advance, because of course, those of us of diaspora have been away from the motherland for too long. Okay, too long. So please, just make sure I've got your spelling of your pronunciation of your surname correct. Javangwe, because you pronounce it for me. Oh, you're so nice. Thank you. And I want to introduce you to Lady Chelsea, my co-presenter. Okay.
Hi. Morning to both of you.
Hello.
Great to meet you.
And what Lady Chelsea provides is that generational balance. Okay. And life without generational balance, because what we've always got to think about is the next generation. What we do is for the next generation. Okay. And the next generation can be quite critical sometimes of my generation, huh? Okay. And therefore, we've always just got to take it on the nose and say, well, okay, we've got to do better. Okay. And I agree. And we, my generation, must be open to criticism, must be open to criticism and not and accept it. And it's not meant to denigrate. It's intended and is said from love. Because we are but one family. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to ask the first question. Then I'm going to let Lady Chelsea take over some of the follow-up questions. Okay. And I just want to, can I ask both of you, if I start with you with my sister, can I just ask you just to again introduce yourself and just describe the organisation that you belong to and the work that you are committed to in terms of your eco-citizens. I like the title of your organisation because eco-citizens is one that should go right across the entire continent. We all should become eco-citizens. But anyway, let me stop talking. Please introduce yourself and just tell us about the organisation.
Good morning. Thank you for me. Thanks to everybody who's here. My name is Awula Sewa, and I coordinate eco-conscious citizens. And as you rightly said, the name speaks for itself. We are conscious about the environment, and we do all things environmental. We're a not-for-profit organization dealing with environmental issues. It's an African-led organization, so a group of Africans at home and abroad.
Yes.
You are here in the UK, I'm in Ghana. We are having this meeting with yourself and, beautiful Lady Chelsea, and everything looks fine, although we are in different continents. So what we're trying to do is to ensure that we live in a clean, green, and healthy environment. So we do all things environmental. We look at deforestation. We look at preserving our parks and open spaces. We deal with sanitation. We deal with speaking out and campaigning when it comes to mining, especially bauxite mining in forest reserves. For example, last week I talked about Itiwa Forest Reserve. We are part of a campaign to stop the mining of bauxite there. There are photos that will show you what the forest will be reduced to should we allow this destructive mining to take place. So that's me in a nutshell, all things environmental. And what we are also doing is setting up eco-conscious citizens clubs in schools. Because like he said, it's about generations. We must leave a legacy. And then set them up in school, let them understand the relevance of nature to man. For his wisdom, God put us in the Garden of Eden, not the garden of concrete. So we are put in a green space for a purpose. That's where we thrive. The relationship between man and nature, and the saying that when the last tree dies, the last man dies. Why is that so?
African proverb. Thank you. Beautiful. Adequate as always. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Perseverance. We can't see you again.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Can I invite you to introduce yourself and the organization you belong to and what it is doing in response to climate change?
Thanks a lot. Sometimes I switch off my video because of data challenges this side.
Okay. Yes.
So my name is Perseverance Javangwe. I am a climate reality leader. I was trained through the Climate Reality Project last year by former USA Vice President Augo, who is also the chairperson of the Climate Reality Project. I'm also the United Nations Conference of Youth Country Coordinator for Zimbabwe, and I'm also a journalist. I work at an organization called the Community Voices Zimbabwe, which is a rural-based community organization. We're headquartered in the Midlands province in the city of Kwekwe, but we cover much the rural areas. So it was during my line of work as a journalist that I realized that people in the rural areas are being impacted by climate change. So I started playing my advocacy role as a journalist, reporting on news, doing documentaries, doing podcasts. But then I thought it wasn't enough for me to just do it as a journalist. This is when I decided to venture into climate activism and trained as a leader. This is when I also, after the training last year, I founded what is called the Climate Justice Zimbabwe, which is still a platform, and I'm still in the process of registering it as an organization so that I can get into the rural communities and actually educate them on climate change issues. Because in Zimbabwe, if you are not registered as an organization, according to the constitution, you can't gather with people to educate them. It's actually illegal. So I need to organize and register an organization. So last year, when I started this platform, the Climate Justice Zimbabwe, I opened up a blog. Then I saw that there was a need for me to do a WhatsApp group so that I can try and reach some people in the marginalized communities, because some have no access to the internet. They can't read the blog, they can't go on YouTube, they can't go on Twitter, but majority can go on WhatsApp here and there. So I started a WhatsApp group to on climate awareness. But the good part was the group actually ended up getting support from activists or leaders and environmentalists from across the globe, because now the group comprises of not only Zimbabweans, but Kenyans, Ugandans, people from Bangladesh, India, Brazil, UK, Netherlands. So we try and help each other. We give each other ideas on what we can do, what they are doing in their countries, and what we can learn here in Zimbabwe, so that together we can actually act against the climate crisis, because this is not just a Zimbabwean thing, this is a global thing. So we need help across the globe. So this is what I'm doing now. So the other thing that I noticed was people, our human rights, there is a linkage between human rights and climate change. So this is another issue that I'm trying to address, to link human rights issues to climate change issues, and also try to educate people on the importance of these things.
Thank you. Very, very interesting introduction. Like I knew it was right to do part 2. I knew it was right. I'm going to hand over, if I may, to Lady Chelsea. Okay. You've heard both contributors. Okay. I know you have a question for them. Go ahead.
Thank you for that.
I'll go otherwise. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're both very informative. You answered a lot of what I kind of had prepared for you anyway. But I just want to know, from, I don't know, the countries you're working in or you're from, what is the most pressing issue, and what can be done? What are the solutions for it, if any, at the moment? Either of you can answer.
Who wishes to answer first? What is the most pressing environmental issue in either Ghana or Zimbabwe, I suppose, the question. Let's start with Ghana.
I mean, Ghana is a mixed bag. I think you ask the question, people will give you different answers. People will say that, for example, it's just climate change, the weather patterns changing, rain coming when you don't expect them and not coming when you expect them, which makes it very difficult to plant. And as this has an impact on food. And also people will talk about the heat. It's getting hotter and hotter, and that's because we are felling our trees. Ghana is not as green as it used to be, and therefore there needs to be action taken. Others will tell you that it's noise. There's a lot of noise pollution. Just yesterday, a lady was telling me about a contact of hers who had died from a heart attack, and they believe that it was due to the excessive noise. Another person was talking about a friend who had to have open heart surgery, which again was attributed to noise pollution. So there are many different things that people will capitalize on. But I think we all agree that the country is becoming hotter and hotter, and we really need to do something about deforestation. And introduce the planting of trees, because it has an effect on almost every aspect of our lives. And then we can also talk about the climate change. I mean, recently when it rained, some parts of the Volta region, people's homes were taken over by the waters. And yes, people say that it's also because of human activities, illegal sand mining or sand winning, whichever way you want to call it. But it's also due to the climate changing. So I think people are beginning to realize that it has an effect on everybody and on our everyday life.
Would you be able to I don't know if everyone knows what deforestation is. If you could, I don't know, quickly explain that and just say what were the benefits and disadvantages.
In a nutshell, it's felling trees without planting new trees. So that what was once, let's say, a beautiful green space becomes a desert. It's as simple as the absence of trees, which could be caused mainly by human activity, just felling trees, whether for charcoal, whether for whatever reason, whether to sell the wood, because we have beautiful mahogany and other trees that people want to use as furniture. But of course, everything can be done in a sustainable manner. You can't keep felling trees because some trees take years to grow.
Yeah.
Them in a minute. So it's a question of doing things in an intelligent, sustainable manner. And
absolutely right. Absolutely right. And
that's why we are saying no to the mining of bauxite in Etiwa Forest Reserve. I invite everybody listening to Google Etiwa Forest Reserve. You see that it's a beautiful place that can be used for tourism, for the admiration of nature. It's just counterproductive to go and mine bauxite there because of the current technology. Mining bauxite is surface mining. A lot of dust and things will come. It will destroy the ecosystem and pollute the source of water to over 5 million Ghanaians.
Wow. Okay. It is astonishing. My research since I last met you, which is why the images behind us are of the African rainforest. And I note the word African rainforest as opposed to the Amazon rainforest. We don't often discuss the African rainforest.
So people are unaware that we have rainforests in Africa. When you talk about rainforest, Brazil. So I really like what you are saying, trying to bring the spotlight to Africa and education. We have rainforests in Africa. It's not just the Amazon.
Well said. The Amazon is becoming increasingly smaller. It's shrinking at the moment. So the African rainforest, in terms of its size, it's getting comparable size to the Amazon rainforest. And it's so important to remember that if it goes, it is the lungs of the earth. If it goes, we are truly in trouble. If it goes, right? So I am in total concordance with your efforts, and we need you to be successful. Okay, okay. I'm sorry. Perseverance, I think. Yes. Do put the same question to you. So, what is the most critical environmental issue in Zimbabwe that you've identified that Zimbabwe needs to respond to?
Okay, thanks a lot. Firstly, let me talk about the economical challenges that the country is currently facing. These caused a lot of environmental destruction, right? Because the challenge is Zimbabwe is a high rate of unemployment, and people are trying their best to find anything that can sustain them. Right? This has resulted in some resorting to cutting down trees so that they sell firewood for a living, right? One thing is electricity is expensive because the economy has suffered. Electricity is expensive. Lighting, people now use electricity just for lighting their houses only. They can't cook, they can't put on their fridges because electricity is expensive. So if they want to cook, they resort to buying firewood. So there are people who are going to cut down trees almost on a daily basis. And what I've actually realized recently is that some of these people are actually going to cut those fresh trees so that they sell because they need money in the end. So I was discussing this issue with some people some time ago, and they were saying, we need to arrest these people. And I was like, okay, fine. We arrested them, right? They get arrested, they are fined, they come back, they need to leave again. They're going to go back there, they cut down trees again, then they sell. So we really have a serious challenge on this issue. So what I've discovered is that when the economy suffers, the environment also suffers.
Okay.
This has become a serious challenge. So I think the solution for us is to make sure that we plant more trees. Yes, we need to educate people. We also need solutions like biogas, which is another form of energy, which is better. I recently came across this organization in the rural areas which introduced biogas to the rural communities so that they stop cutting down trees, which is a good initiative. So it's another good initiative, but we also need to plant more trees and also resort to renewable energies so that avoid deforestation. Then secondly, another challenge, just like my partner in Uganda said, I think the change in weather pattern is affecting most countries in Africa. In Zimbabwe, we used to know that the rains would fall in October and the farmers would start planting their crops. But up to now, you realize no one has actually planted anything because the rains are yet to come at the pace that we have been accustomed to previously. So this is a challenge now because it has resulted in a serious drought in the past previous years. And the rural people, the rural communities were being affected, but it actually went to a situation where it started affecting everyone, even in the urban areas. Because in the urban areas now, the prices start to increase because there is drought. And remember, the economy is suffering. And when the prices increase now, it becomes a challenge for everyone.
Yes.
So it's actually a difficult situation. But the government introduced a good initiative. It's called the Pumvudza in Shona. I don't know. It doesn't have an English.
Please say again.
Pumvudza.
Pumvudza.
Yeah. Yeah. And this initiative, farmers are just encouraged to farm a small portion that can sustain their families. So the method that they use is actually better because they dig holes that are actually, say, around 30 centimeters. So even if the rains come at a lower level, those holes can actually hold water for such a long time so that the crops can actually grow up well and they can harvest something for their families. So this was actually a good start from the government. And personally for me, I liked the initiative. And I've seen in some parts that I visited in the rural communities, people are actually adopting that Pumvudza program, which is a good initiative. Then the third challenge that I want to bring to our attention is the issue of in the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, we talk of leaving no one behind, right? But now when you come to Zimbabwe, when we talk of climate change issues, climate crisis, there is a group of people that is being left behind. These include people living with disabilities. Okay. These people, in terms of policies, in terms of anything that has to do with climate crisis, they are left behind, right? They are not included. Because what I believe is, I was talking to someone who works with people with disabilities at this organization, and she was saying, perseverance, you can talk of doing something for people with disabilities. It's fine. But the thing is, whatever you do, as long as you don't include them, as long as they are not part of what you are planning, then you're not involving them. Because they need to be part of the plan. They need to have a voice in whatever you say about climate change. Right. So I actually realized in my line of work and doing my awareness and even doing my advocacy as a journalist, I actually discovered that these people with disabilities, they are actually, we might see them physically and say, yes, they are people with disabilities. But when you talk with them and actually get to understand what they go through, how they think, you actually start to realize that this is actually a special group that is supposed to be included. Mm-hmm. The way they think, the way they have this innovative thinking, I think these are people that we should put at the forefront in terms of the climate crisis. Because now I have come to believe that there is no climate justice without disability justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. You're both so eloquent, I have to say. Beautiful. I'm going to use those words in my speeches, future speeches, so be aware of that, okay? Hope you don't mind. Lady Chelsea, your next question.
Yeah. Again, this is for both of you. I just want to know if you were getting any support or like backing from politicians or governments in your countries, or do they care? Are they working with you, or is it more pushback? Either of you can answer.
That's interesting. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, very interesting question. But let me first start by saying that, we talked about solutions. For example, the Energy Commission, they had this pilot project, especially in schools, where there was a lot of land. They would let them grow a very fast-growing tree, which was meant for charcoal. So it's very fast-growing, and you can sort of cut the trees for the charcoal without really destroying the trees. And so this is something they were trying to do. So you don't have to fell trees for charcoal, but you can grow these ones specifically for the charcoal that you need. So this was one solution that they had thought about.
Very good.
And later on, you talked about African activists not really being highlighted. I want to encourage everybody here to research somebody known as Yakuba Sawadogo. Yakuba Sawadogo. This is a gentleman from Burkina Faso. He was born in 1946, and he's known, if you Google him, he's known as the man who stopped the desert. The man who stopped the desert.
Oh,
and
yes.
He was born in Burkina Faso in 1946. He experienced firsthand how the climate crisis had caused destruction of the land, turning it into a desert. He decided not to stand idly by, but to do something about it. This is somebody who doesn't speak French, doesn't speak English. He speaks his local dialect, and yet he's got international recognition. He might not be on BBC every day, but yes, we should know about him. So yes, let's promote African activists. Made a fantastic difference. So he has done what everybody thought was impossible. We know about Wangari Maathai, what she also achieved. She was recognized and she got a Nobel Prize. He hasn't received a Nobel Prize, but like you were saying earlier on, yes, he's doing a fantastic job, but let's also promote our own. Let's also promote the likes of Yakuba Sawadogo, who are doing a brilliant job. And now to come back to the question that you asked, what are the governments doing? That's a very interesting question. Yes, Ghana took part in planting trees. We had a target, whether 2 million, 3 million, I forget the numbers. But yes, we plant trees as a way of mitigating climate change. So now the interesting thing to do is to have a review, find out how many of the trees we planted are surviving or have survived, lessons to be learned, and so on and so forth. Yes, so yes, government does take steps like planting trees, but this is part of a big effort. You can't just, plant trees and maybe there's nobody looking after them. And then we say, I've ticked the box. What else? No, we need to do things in different ways. As has been pointed out, our mangroves, our forests, reserves are incredibly important. And I can't stress enough the need for protecting them.
Yes.
I'll keep harping on it. Erocha Ghana has started a campaign against the mining of bauxite at Iowa Forest Reserve. The government did not appreciate our concerns, so reluctantly, they have been taken to court. I'm one of the parties to the case, but as I said, it's led by Erocha Ghana, because Erocha has been campaigning for so many years, and obviously the importance of preserving the forest has not been quite appreciated as of now. Yes, we've been to COP26, we've said all the right things, but what is the translation when it comes to the steps we are taking?
Yes.
The mixed bag, yes, we are planting trees, but it's not just planting trees. We have to preserve our forests. We have to ensure that we educate people, we enforce our laws. I think you've all heard about mining in Ghana. The mining has devastated the country, poisoned our waters, poisoned the land. very soon you will have the world telling us that they will not be able to buy cocoa from Ghana because the land is contaminated. We have China and other countries growing cocoa. So we need to think that we have to enforce, we have to protect our lands, we have to protect our waters. Mining is causing a destructive effect on our lands, especially the illegal mining. But even some of them, what's the difference between illegal mining and legal mining? Legal mining means that they've got a permit, but does it mean that anybody is consistently monitoring?
Right.
The organizations that had permits that were putting their wastewater into the waters that people drink. So permit and being a legal mining organization does not mean that they are therefore doing the right thing. So it's the government needs to, if it cares about climate change and it's looking at the consequences of maltreating our land and water, they need to take the right steps, and they also need to monitor and enforce our laws.
Okay.
Are you suggesting that that doesn't happen at the moment?
I am suggesting that we are not consistently monitoring laws, and the laws are there. We can give somebody a permit. So we've done the environmental assessment, which I'm reliably informed is not always done. And we don't monitor consistently. And therefore, they say people do what you inspect them to do. So if they say you are not inspecting, you sit in an office and tick boxes, then obviously they may do things they shouldn't do. I don't know if you heard about the story of Coca-Cola many years ago in India, where their wastewater from washing the bottles and so on was being put into the waters that people were drinking from. This was Coca-Cola. It wasn't a flat, and they were doing what they were doing because they could get away with it. And you had Indian activists who, I think one of them was even died. How that happened. Activists have been losing their lives. Eventually, Coca-Cola had to put an end to its illegal activities and do the right thing. They were doing the wrong thing because they could get away with it.
Yes. And if I may ask you before Lady Chelsea comes back in, either of you receive any governmental financial support in the work? I know. I had to ask this question for the work that you are committed to. Do you receive any government?
No, we are a not-for-profit organization. We don't receive any funding from the government. So far, a lot of the work that we do, we've been financing ourselves. If I didn't mention, we also have a WhatsApp platform, Eco-Conscious Citizens WhatsApp platform, where we hold monthly meetings on the last Thursday of every month and discuss environmental issues. We have had platform members who have been brilliant and who have contributed. Some have contributed towards a court case because we may have to take our local assembly, La Cotopaxi Municipal Assembly, to court for not doing the work it's mandated to do. Some have contributed towards the school we've adopted, where we have an eco-conscious citizens club. So for example, they needed a water hose, they needed watering cans. We're taking on a trip to Parks and Gardens because they never heard of a place called Parks and Gardens. We were taking them there on an excursion. We needed to hire a bus. We need to provide refreshments and so on and so forth. So there again, we've had a member who has contributed and paid for the cost of hiring the bus. So yes, we get support from some of our members, but from government, not yet.
Not yet. I like that. Not yet. Positive. Perseverance. Do you receive any sort of government finance support in order for you to carry out the work you're committed to?
Not really.
I smile when I ask the question. I know.
I haven't received any financial assistance from the government, and from my own perspective, and from what I'm willing to do, I want to work as an NGO, and I don't expect to receive any financial assistance from the government. Another thing. Another reason being, once you receive that kind of assistance from the government, the challenge becomes, if you can't criticize them if they are doing something that is wrong, because they are giving you money, right? They're giving you money, so you can't criticize them. And the other thing is, whenever you criticize the government in Zimbabwe nowadays, you are labeled an opposition person in terms of politics. Right, you are labeled a regime changer, you see. So I would actually prefer working individually and maybe try to finance myself or try to find financial assistance from some sectors which are not government. Then coming to the question from Lady Chelsea about what if the government is doing enough, was it?
That's right, yes.
So from what I see, the government is really trying. I think the climate change issue is actually a challenge to most of us as Africans, and more so to the African leaders. So I was actually happy when the president came in during his first term and he said, we are going to introduce the National Cleanup Day campaign, which comes every month, the first Friday of every month. There is a National Cleanup Day, which is a good initiative for me because waste is contributing to, I think, about around 6% of emissions in Zimbabwe. So to actually get rid of waste, I think it's a good start. Then the other thing is we have the National Tree Planting Day in Zimbabwe, which comes, is it 21, 22 December? I can't remember, but it's every year in December. But however, for us to wait for that day, I don't think it's actually enough. I think in terms of tree planting, it's something that we are always supposed to do. I think maybe if this tree planting day was can actually be implemented in a way that they do the cleanup day, I think it will be actually a good thing. Maybe say let's do it every month. Was actually the rate at which people are cutting down trees in Zimbabwe is actually devastating. And we really need to step up on that. Then another issue, let me talk about education. I don't think the government is doing enough in terms of climate education, because if you talk to children, say under the age of 16, majority of them, when you talk about climate change, it's like you are talking of a horror movie or something else they've never seen. It's actually a new thing to them. So this becomes a challenge now, because we are saying our future generations are supposed to be the ones who are more active and more involved in this thing of climate change. So I believe there is need for the government to start this climate education from grassroots level. Maybe if it's possible to introduce a subject on climate change. Yes. Because right now there is a subject called geography. This is where climate change is partly done, but I don't think it's enough. And even in tertiary institutions, maybe to introduce a module on climate change, maybe everyone can start doing something and start realizing that there is need for action. So I think there is a gap on education. Then another thing was I remember listening to the Minister of Environment. By the way, in Zimbabwe, it's called the Minister of Tourism and blah, blah, then Environment later, which I think the Minister of Environment is supposed to stand on its own so that we act more on the environment. So I heard him talking about, he was talking with the youth in Harare, by the way, because Harare is the capital city. I'm not even from Harare, I'm from Kwekwe. And they were talking about, he was saying, no one comes to me, no youth comes to me. So I don't know your plans and blah, 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 blah. So I was like, fine. But most of these things that they do in terms of climate change, all of them are centered in Harare. If there is a function, it's in Harare. If there is something about climate change, it's in Harare. So what about those youth or those people that are outside Harare? When are we going to have such issues in Midlands? I remember last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks, they were talking about that document, the NDC document. And from what I know, they are saying they went throughout the country making consultations. I never saw them in Kwekwe. I never saw them in Midlands. I never saw them in any rural community of Midlands making those consultations. Mind you, most people in the rural areas are not even aware of the thing called climate change. So I don't know how they came up with this document. I don't know how they structured it, because we are leaving people behind in the rural communities. These people need education. They need to know what is happening. So there is...
Just pause just a second. I just realised the time, and been alerted maybe Lady Chelsea would give the announcement for the telephone lines.
Yeah, okay.
Just realised I'm on telephone lines now. Just realised time is flying by.
Yeah, sorry. So any listeners, you have anything to contribute, the number is 0203 481 5240. You'll be then asked for a PIN number, which is 370 733 4397, followed by the hash key sign. So if you want to contribute to the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Thank you, Lady Chelsea. I'll let you just finish the point you were making, because I understand that dynamics where it's all focused around the central city, and those in the rural areas are effectively being left out of that discussion. I understand that. I suppose we're now on the solution side. It's how we bridge that gap. Any thoughts about that? Any thoughts? How to bridge the gap?
Oh, thank you very much. Like I was saying, it's just the same thing with education. I mean, this thing, we need to spread this thing across the country, because everyone is impacted by climate change. Everyone. Right now, we're witnessing serious heat conditions, serious heat temperatures. So I really think there is need for the government to spread this education, the climate change education, throughout the country, specifically in the rural areas. If you can have people who can go there, that will be actually something that is great, because we need everyone to be involved in the climate change discourse.
Thank you. And you're 100% correct. I'm not sure if that's a similar situation in Ghana, of course, in terms of awareness, city folks versus the rural levels of awareness. Would that be true for Ghana as well? Well,
I mean, in most places, things center around the main city. So not just Accra, it will be Kumasi, it will be all the regional capitals. But I think that I agree with Perseverance that what we need to do is education, starting from the grassroots level. Even in nursery, you could have sessions where you introduce them to the green, to the park, so let them understand the relationship between nature and man. So education is important. I think all the points he made about the curriculum, they are something that we need to take on board. But another thing also, in addition to education, is also enforcement of regulations. People want to build. You have to ensure that they have a certain minimum number of trees in their houses. You find people who are building a plot of land where there are trees. Instead of preserving the trees, bring a bulldozer, just get rid of everything so they have a clear space. But if you make it part of, in fact, it says part of it, but nobody enforces it. But if you're going to build, you have to make sure that the house, the compound and the front have a certain minimum number of trees. Then you're getting somewhere, you enforce the regulations. And also people have the habit of wanting to pave everywhere because they think that when they plant trees, the leaves, and people are thinking of, the work involved in sweeping the leaves or gathering them or paying somebody to do it. But you have to make people understand that you can't pave everywhere and then sit back and say it's hot. Of course it's hot. You need to, keep the place. And even when you're paving, you need to use green materials. You can't use cement and so on and so forth. So government should show some amount of leadership. That would help. But I'll just make a point that, yes, I think it's good to be a non-governmental organization, not affiliated to government and not necessarily taking government money. But I think that receiving money for a project should not stop you from being who you are. You speak the truth at all times. Whether you receive support from anybody or not, that should not stop you from speaking the truth. If the person decides not to fund you any longer, so be it. Even members, anybody at all who supports you, you accept the support where the support is not tied. But the minute the person wants to zip your mouth, then you say, thank you very much, keep your support, and I'll keep my ethics and I'll keep my values. Thank you very much. So I believe that government can do far more than it's doing. It needs to enforce regulations. It needs to educate. But education is not just up to government. It's also up to each and every one of us. The president keeps on telling us that we should not be spectators, that we should be active citizens. And being an active citizen is even starting education in your own home, to your families and contacts by the way you behave, not littering, not wasting water. Last week we talked about wasting water and electricity and so on and so forth. So yes, education is not just limited to government and educational institutions, but we can also do that. And that's what we try to do with our Zoom meetings. And after you've got the information, it's up to you to also educate your contacts or friends. Let's remember that the Bible started with 12 disciples. How many people do we have now who profess to be Christians? So we start educating from a nucleus, and everybody goes on and continues the message that climate change affects all of us. Yes, the West is responsible for most of the havoc that has been caused, but that doesn't mean we should also not do our bit. We need to do our bit because we are suffering from it.
Absolutely. And as I said last week, and I've just checked to make sure my stats were correct, Africa is responsible for only 4%.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. In the atmosphere, only 4%.
Absolutely.
Okay, Lady Chelsea. And in fact, before we go back to Lady Chelsea, I just want to repeat the numbers for those who are listening. I know, like me, I'm totally captivated by our two speakers who've illuminated the subject of climate change and environmental protection in ways that we very rarely air enough here in Britain. So I've been captivated by you. So I've give out the number, please engage them now, because they are here at your disposal to respond to your questions. And the number to call, it's 0203 481 5240. And the PIN number, it's 3707 33 43 97, followed by the # sign. And I've got to do with Lady Chelsea. It's the vertical and horizontal symbol on your keypad. You know, you usually say # sign. You know, you've got to tell them what it really means. Anyway, so we welcome your calls. Engage our wonderful guest. You know, wonderful guest. Lady Chelsea, over to you. Your next question.
Again, this is for either of you or both of you. I just wanted to know how you kind of dealt with or deal with people who kind of don't believe that global warming or whatever is not real, or that we shouldn't be concerned with it, especially how maybe the government probably may have some views like that as well. I just want to know how you deal with it, or convert them or inform them, you know, to kind of worry about it and do something about it.
Brilliant question. You know, we've got him over here as well, haven't we? So, and the former president of the so-called United States was a skeptic as well. It's quite astonishing. Who wishes to go first? Because this is an interesting question. I could not have come up with such a question, you see, so that's why she's here. Come on. Okay. Perseverance, yeah? Perseverance?
Thanks, Lady Chelsea, for that question. I might say, you know, the first time I started being an activist, I was nervous about how I was going to deal with climate deniers. And I actually met some in Zimbabwe, but my point to them was, you know, but some of them were saying, this is all God's will. Right? This is supposed to happen according to the Bible. That's what they say, right? So I was saying, okay, fine. Let's be honest. God gave us the mind, right?
Yeah.
Through the mind, we develop the science, right? And science is telling we are responsible for this, right? We are the ones who are supposed to act. I want to believe most scientists do believe that our behavior is actually the leading thing in terms of global warming. So now, if scientists are saying this, if our minds are saying this, that means we are supposed to do something, right? We can't just sit and say, it's God's will, so God will come and do his will. No, we're supposed to do something, right? Because faith without works is dead, as we all know. So I believe it's us doing the action.
Okay. I hear you. That makes sense.
For me, it's also a question of lots of Ghanaians claim to be, I use the word claim to be Christians. You look at your Bible, it tells you that he put us in the Garden of Eden. and there are commandments to take care of it, keep it. So you have been commanded to take care of your environment. So if you truly believe what the good book says, then take care of your environment. You take care of your environment by felling all the trees. And I keep on telling them that God placed you in the Garden of Eden, not in the Garden of Concrete. So there's a reason why you are there. And if you look at the description of the Garden of Eden, it should motivate all of us to try and work towards a clean environment. And also, Lady Chelsea, one thing you can do is point people to facts. There was a time when we knew when it would rain and when it wouldn't rain. I mean, within reason. Right now, as it just rains anytime it wants to rain. So it's very difficult for the farmers. And if it continues, you will experience food shortages. In fact, those in the rural areas, life has become very difficult. They are feeling the brunt of it. So I think by giving clear examples, and I gave an example last week about a part in the north where the rains were so chaotic that even crocodiles were coming to people's homes and they were asking disaster organizations to come and help. So you have to point to concrete examples and say that, look, this is a consequence of climate change and we can do something about it, or at least we can minimize the effects of it. And these are the things you can do. For heaven's sake, stop felling trees at the drop of a hat. You need to be involved in planting trees, and not just planting it and walking away, but making sure that you look after them, you ensure that they're not eaten by goats or anything. So there are little steps that you can also take. And I think there's a program I'm starting to be corrected, either the Philippines or one of these countries where before you go to university, you should have planted X number of trees.
Oh.
It sort of shows you how important trees are, and it's monitored. It's something that we tried to start a memorial program where you can plant a tree to mark a birth and plant a tree, to mark the departure of a loved one. But occasions where you plant trees, and planting trees should be a way of life. And I feel like the backdrop, Africa's climate activism, the photo you have of the African Amazon, we must understand that it's incredibly important to plant trees, to have forests, to have greenery. One of our first campaigns was the Parks and Gardens campaign. Our first president had seen the wisdom of having parks and gardens, not just in Accra, which is the capital city, but in all the regional capitals in Ghana. And the headquarters has beautiful land with a park and a place where, the office and a place where you can buy plants and so on and so forth. And there was this I use brilliant in inverted commas, of building an office block on the land meant for parks and gardens as multi-office block, and to rezone the area, which is currently known as Green Civic, to exclusively civic. And that's when we said, no, this is not going to happen. And Eco-Cultural Citizens stepped in. This was in 2019. And to date, we protected parks and gardens from being built upon because we saw the importance of maintaining green spaces. So that's what everybody can be. Be a climate activist. You don't have to be interested in the profile. Just be a climate activist by your own actions. You see an open space, see what you can plant there, see how you protect it. And you see somebody cementing, let them see the alternatives to cementing. Thank you.
Okay.
Eco-conscious citizens. Absolutely, indeed. Absolutely. If I may ask you a further question, what support or help, assistance can African people who live here in Britain offer to our brothers and sisters, elders on the motherland? What can we do to help you to deliver on that core agenda?
Yeah, very important question. I mean, there's so many different types of support. Ideas are support because Perseverance talked about sharing ideas, sharing good practice. So those ideas, you can share ideas that why can't we do this? Why don't we do this? And so on and so forth. Join the platforms because the platforms are important to exchange ideas. And of course, I mean, they can also be financial support. You can see a project that you believe in, you think it's something that would help, and therefore you can give it your support, whether advice, whether monetary, or so on and so forth. I'm sure there'll be so many good projects and Perseverance might be involved in. Eco-conscious citizens are involved in trying to set up clubs in schools. We're interested in, what shall I say, taking over green spaces before they are built upon, because don't want Accra to become, or Ghana, because we shouldn't just focus on Accra. We don't want Ghana to become a concrete jungle. Kumasi, one of, used to be known as the Garden City.
Yes.
It's not so. But there's hope, anything that has gone wrong can be put right with the right solution. So it's a question of coming together as Africans, discussing solutions and offering whatever support one is able to offer, whether it's advice, whether it's guidance, whether it's finance. Every kind of support is appreciated.
Brilliant, brilliant. And can I just ask you just very slowly, just to describe how a listener who wants to get involved with the Eco-Conscious Citizens Organisation, how can they contact you, and how indeed can they attend your monthly meetings?
Absolutely. Please email ecoconsciouscitizens@gmail.com. There's no hyphen in the email address. Eco-conscious, CONSCIOUS, citizens with an S, @gmail.com. We would welcome your emails, and then we would invite you to join the platform, and you can take part in our monthly Zoom meetings on the last Thursday of every month from 6 to 8 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I'll give regular announcements for that in future shows, not you worry. I think we've got a caller on the line. Can I just ask caller with number ending 9034? Good morning to you. And if you could introduce yourself and put your questions to our guest. Good morning, caller number 9034. It always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Good morning. Can you hear us?
No.
This person. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I did
okay.
unmute. Sorry. Yeah, and grand rising to you and grand rising to our sister
Good
Chelsea.
morning.
And to the guest. It's a very interesting topic. I mean, you were discussing it last week. I called in. I put some points. I also think I sent you some information on that bridge that they're cutting across the Sahara. I mean, not across the Sahara, but dividing the Sahara and the rest of Africa about 400 miles long across the African continent to sort of curb the desertification. And I think the sister said she knew about it. But as you rightly said, I mean, the desertification of Africa is very rapid. And as you rightly said, there needs to be a rapid, challenge to it. And I think that the system brother there is really on song. And basically, I would like to ask them the question: well, are they encouraging people, the farmers and so forth? Right? Because I know that in my land, I have my land, and the people just, because we weren't there, they just come and cut all the trees down.
In which country, my president? Which country are you referring to?
Tanzania.
Oh, Tanzania. Okay.
Yeah, and they cut the trees down because of firewood. They want firewood, so they just come in and they cut down even the cashew trees, everything trees that is, and they just cut them down. And, so this is something that most of the people are not concentrating on. They don't see desertification. They just see the immediate at the moment.
Yes.
And really,
just to pause there for a second there, Mark Burton, because it is interesting. We have sort of touched on the reasons why that might be happening. I know Perseverance reference economics, and climate change go hand in hand. And of course, if you have no other means of cooking or heating, then of course what's around you is your only source of energy. Maybe Perseverance might want to respond to that initially, then I'll bring in my sister Sarah.
Okay, thanks a lot. I'm not sure what may be the reason behind those who are cutting down trees in Tanzania. But like I said, in Zimbabwe, it's due to the economic situation. People are finding it hard to strive to eke a living. So it's a challenge really in Zimbabwe, because some, they think if I go and cut down trees, I come here, everyone wants firewood. If I sell, say, a wheelbarrow costs something like 6 US, if that person can get 2 wheelbarrows a day, that's 12 US, which is something better a day. So this is actually the reason behind people cutting down trees in Zimbabwe. So one thing, like I said, I think there is reason for us to switch to renewable energies, introduce biogas as an energy. I remember this organization that introduced this initiative in one rural community in Berengwa, and every farmer, even the chief, was satisfied with the initiative, and they actually enjoyed biogas, because now you don't have to use firewood. Some were saying we actually use cow dung to process the whole thing. So, which is actually better than to go and cutting down trees. Then also, we also need to plant more trees, because I think we have lost more trees than we are planting. So, like I said, in Zimbabwe, we have a National Tree Planting Day, but still, it's not enough for us to wait for that one day in December. Yet we are cutting trees all along. So, I think there is need for us to plant more trees every now and then. Some they plant trees on their birthdays. Some they celebrate other people's birthdays through planting a tree. It becomes funny when we do this constantly. That's what I think.
Okay, I understand you. Thank you. Brother Akram, can you hear us still?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So you've seen that connection between the economics and environmental concerns, and why the woods that you're referring to have been cut down. Any solutions from your side then? Any thoughts of what we could do about that?
Well, as I said, a strong education program is needed. Basically right across the continent. That especially those that have farms, that have chambers, that they should plant more trees. Especially even around the borders, if they want the land inside for farming, but at least even around the borders, I mean, if you have 5 acres or 10 acres, there's quite a lot of trees can be planted, in areas. One of the other things which I wanted to bring to the attention of the brothers last week was the situation. What I've come to notice in life, people seem to build cities on very fertile land. It seems like we plant concrete buildings on very fertile land, rather than choosing the area that is not so fertile in order to build our city. I don't know what the brothers think about that, because I've been looking at that.
Let's hold that question there. Hold that question there for a moment, because it's an interesting point as well. I think, first of all, before we go over, I think we all should become eco-conscious citizens, mind you. I think that's what you're really describing. So I'm going to go to Ghana now and ask our sister just to respond to what he said in regards to cities and where cities are located. Is that generally true? Cities are located in fertile land as opposed to land that you could use without losing opportunity for growing food and so on. Is that generally true, do you think?
I can't say it's true or it's not true. I mean, I have to be honest about that. But what I would say is that wherever you've located your house, there's nothing stopping you from having a compound and preserving the trees and making sure that there are trees there. Yesterday, for example, I met a gentleman who was talking about when a hotel known as Labadi Beach Hotel was being built. There was a lot of coconut trees, and they just wanted to get rid of the coconut trees. And he said, no, build around. And so what he did, because we're not willing to do that, he excavated all the coconut trees and took them to his home. And he said every single one of them survived. Right. And right now you go to the hotel, they have planted nice trees and things. But, we have this sort of mindset that needs to be changed when we are building, just wanting to sort of bulldoze everything, build the house or structure, and then plant trees. And some don't even plant a single tree. That's why I said that legislation is important. You have to ensure that you can't just build, you must plant some trees. But in direct answer to the question, I'm not quite sure, but I would say that if we still ensure that wherever we build, we keep the trees that were there, we replace and we keep planting, it wouldn't be as bad a problem as it might be. And I would say that in terms of what Perseverance said, yes, we should be moving towards renewable energy. So there was no need to filter. But in the meantime, I did talk about Ghana having this program where they had these fast-growing trees that are grown specifically for charcoal. So there's no need to cut shea butter trees or cashew trees or any of these trees for firewood, even as you're trying to move to sustainable energy. So you don't even have to use so much charcoal. There are so many different ways of generating power, but it's a question of having a vision and changing the way we've been doing things. Not a question of talking, but implementing a lot of ideas. That is what will make a difference.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Corner, can I ask you a question? Are you a member of an African-based environmental group? Brother Akram.
Is that for me?
Yes, for you. Yes.
No, not directly. I mean, as I said, as you know,
okay. For a moment. Can I ask my sister, is the eco-conscious citizens, do you have any connection in Tanzania?
What I'm saying, that he's welcome to join. He's welcome because we are a group of Africans at home and abroad. So all of Africa, we are in Europe, we are in the Americas, anywhere where you find yourself and you are interested in the environment and you'd like to join, you are most welcome. So whether if you are interested in joining, please send an email to ecoconsciouscitizens@gmail.com and we will ensure that you join the platform. We can exchange ideas, build up on good practice, and that will make a difference. Because you see, a forest is a collection of trees. A single tree standing somewhere is not as effective as a number of trees together forming the forest. So you want to make a difference, join an environmental group. It's so easy with technology now. You can be in Tanzania, but still be a part of us if you are interested.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that Brother Akram is connected with the African Cooperative Union, and I'm convinced that the African Cooperative Union would want to support in these types of environmental initiatives. So eco-conscious citizens, I would absolutely commend eco-conscious citizens to Brother Akram. How about that, Brother Akram?
Yeah, most certainly. As I said, I will take that on board. Because I know that I say alongside the African Cooperative Union, I drew up a school ideology, and in that we did put in that sort of platform, for the part of education. When you're educating children coming up, that should be a part of the curriculum.
Networking, Brother Akram, working together, and failure is a far, far distant prospect. Success is most probable. Okay, all right. So I will make sure you have the details, and maybe you and I can join the monthly meeting. And what date is the next meeting, my sister?
The last Thursday in November. Therefore, we are talking about the last Thursday, the 25th of November.
Got that.
November from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. GMT. And Brother Martin, you're most welcome. I'll be so glad to see you there.
I'll be there.
25th November. I will send you a reminder.
Thank you. Please do. I'd be more than happy.
Lady Chelsea, you're welcome as well.
Thank you.
Can you just run that by me again? Is it eco-conscious
citizens?
Citizens, okay.
So
at gmail.com.
So it's no hyphen. Eco-conscious, no hyphen.
Yeah.
Eco-conscious citizens at gmail.com, no hyphen.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for the call. Okay, thank you very much for the call, brother.
25th November. Thank you. 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
All right, I'll make sure it gets the information, don't you worry. So the next meeting, it's on the 25th of November from 6 to 8 p.m. And I'll make sure that, particularly those who are on the circulation listings, the information is included in my next round of circulation so that we get a healthy number of new attendees to your meeting, my sister. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And Brother Akram, thank you very much for the call. We're running out of time now, but thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Can I just go over to you, Perseverance, and can I just ask you for your sort of closing comments now? What are the key message you want to make sure the audience here leave with today?
Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and thanks a lot for the time we had. I always value such discussions because I think they also allows us to spread the climate discourse to everyone, not just in Zimbabwe only, but across the globe, which is a good thing because I believe everyone has a role to play in the climate crisis. So my last message is, it's not just about the talking, it's about action.
Absolutely.
Action.
Yes.
We need action. Right? We are tired of hearing people talking. COP25, COP24, COP15 is just talking. We now need action on the ground. Then also, we have to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind, even people with disabilities. We need to involve everyone in the climate discourse because everyone has a role to play. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Eloquent as well. And before you go, sorry, President, just make sure we've got this right. And if those who are listening want to contact you, can you just quickly repeat how they can contact you and support you in your work?
Okay, my email is climatejusticezimbabwe@gmail.com. climatejusticezimbabwe@gmail.com. That's the email. Then if you want to contact me on my mobile phone, it's +263 779 633 784. I think that's the fastest way you can communicate with me.
Can you just repeat the number, please, one more time, please?
+263 779 633 784.
784. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much for that. We hope that we can encourage our brothers and sisters, the elders listening, to make contact with you and give you whatever support you need, because the work you're involved in is incredibly important, really important. And it's good to have an African face, not this wonderful young lady with a very nice young lady's face, but an African face on matters to do with the environment and climate change. It's good, and we're pleased to have you from Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to part 3, part 4, part 5, part 6 of this program. This has been wonderful.
Absolutely. And this show, of course, is the Motivator Show, where we translate words into action. So we definitely will give you support that you need, okay? And I'll encourage others to do the same. And if I may now go to Ghana, and your closing message for us. What's the key message you want to ensure that the audience takes away from this interview?
First of all, thank you so much for hosting this brilliant program. Thanks for all the work you do, Mr. Motivator, motivating us. I want to quickly say that each and every one of us is either part of the problem or the solution. We cannot be on the fence. We cannot be victims. We cannot be spectators. So I'm encouraging each and every one of us to do something, whether plant a tree, whether educate whoever you come into contact with, but there's always something you can do. Nobody can say there's nothing I can do because you're part of the solution or part of the problem. Plant a tree, talk to somebody, let people understand that it affects us. Even though we are not the major contributors, all this havoc is affecting us. And let our governments learn the importance of enforcement. You can have all the laws, you can go to COP50, COP70, COP29, sign all sorts of conventions. But if the excuse is that you haven't ratified them, you're not interested in implementing, then it has all been for nothing. Let's be careful about implementation. Let's be careful about enforcement. Let's deal with people who willy-nilly fell trees and are causing devastation. Let's take inspiration from the gentleman in Burkina Faso who single-handedly saved the forest. He can do it, we can do it. Let's learn from Wangari Maathai, who said, her little thing is planting trees. I want to encourage every listener to see to a tree being planted and continue the discussion. Every day, look at one thing that you are doing in support of climate change. Read, research, find out what you can do. There's always something you can do. Even hosting the program is a fantastic way of raising awareness about a very real problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've just realized we have a caller. We're actually almost out of time now, caller. I might give you a minute. I might, as you've taken the trouble to call, the number ending 3133. Good morning.
Good morning, Motivator. Good morning, Lady Chelsea.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Florence.
Question
I'm
to my
so happy
guest.
about this program. I'll be very quick.
Thank you.
Actually, I didn't even realize the importance of this climate change until maybe a few years ago when I was in Nigeria. And so many empty bottles, rubbish all over the floor, everywhere. And I was discussing with the driver of the cab that took me then. And then he was telling me about the problem they had. Then on getting back home here, I found that there are some people doing some programs back in Africa where you can collect all these empty bottles and everything and use them to make blocks that you can actually use to build houses. And I said, oh my God, that will help our environment. At least this will reduce the amount of dirt and rubbish on our streets. I think that is a step towards climate change. And then not only that, I've been telling my friends about once they are building houses, they build boys' quarters. I've been telling them, look, instead of having this big boys' quarter, with the rate of the food is going with poison here and there, we can all plant our own pepper, onion, vegetables, where those boys' quarters are supposed to be. And then still have your boys' quarter, the way it used to be when we were in primary school those days. And I think this is also a way to help the environment. So I think it's something I will advise the listener as well, that look, if we cannot do anything directly, we can do something indirectly from wherever we are. And then since after discussing with the driver, I managed to get some few properties, and I'm start thinking of doing that, having a factory whereby all those bottles and things to be collected and, start building, start making blocks. I've even had some people that I've given scholarship to learn how to do it from university level. Hopefully one day, this will help our environment too.
So in other words, you are an environmentalist, an environmental entrepreneur. Can I describe you as such?
I don't know my name, but this is what I just feel.
Fascinating. We need more of you on the continent. That's what we need. We need more of you. So what you're saying, converting waste into useful products to build homes and so on.
There's a company in Ghana known as Nelplus Ghana, which actually uses plastic waste to make paving blocks, and has actually built a house from there. I think that, yes, this can be done, but one thing we also need to do is to ban single-use plastics. Because it's very good. The roads he has made using plastic, they last, I think the Ministry of Highways has said it will last, I stand to be correct, about 100 years. We also know about the environmental impact of a plastic house. Is it environmentally friendly, and so on and so forth. But yes, their roads are being made with, or can be made. The technology is there, and somebody's actually doing it. Nelplus Ghana, eco company. They do make plastic. They do make building blocks and pavement using plastic waste.
Brilliant. And this is really an interesting one. So really, you two need to meet up, okay? Can I invite the caller? I'm very limited for time. can I invite a caller to accompany me? We'll do it online and attend the next meeting of the Eco-Conscious Citizen.
Okay, I will attend, yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
EcoConsciousCitizens@gmail.com. Send an email and we'll ensure that you are at the next meeting on Thursday, 25th November. Everybody is welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody is welcome.
We're all of like minds and we all come together. Success is ours for the taking. Yeah, that's another motto.
Indeed. I like that. Ours for the taking. A positive spirit is what we need.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to thank the caller. I've made note of your details, and I will contact you after this show, and I'll make sure Brother Akram also comes with me, so you at least 2 or 3 additional members to your next meeting.
That would be brilliant. That's what we want, a network of eco-conscious citizens, because together we are making and we will make a difference.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for
thank you to both of you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to say thank you, my sister, for your contributions. It's been extremely illuminating. I feel empowered, truly empowered. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.
And thank you, Perseverance. Oh, we have such a name, I have to say, huh? Tell you, what a name, you know? And if we all support each other. Yeah,
absolutely. Together, we're linking up is what we need to do, because we all have different skills. And if you bring it to the pool, the sky is the limit. That's
right. Sky is the limit. Lady Chelsea, sorry, I take over also too often.
It's okay.
I know you want to say something. Go on.
No, just thank you both for coming. You've really been really informative and really helpful, and I hope that a lot of people can support this, because I feel like this is important and not backed or like done enough for. So I'm happy that you're both doing that. Happy you came today, and thank you.
And Lady Chelsea may even accompany me as well to your next meeting.
It's most welcome. We look forward to it.
But I promise you at least 20 people along with me on that.
Wow, I'll hold you to that.
We are the change makers, we are the change makers.
Barack Obama said, you are the change you want to see.
There you go. There you go. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to thank you both for your contribution. Thank you. We'll do this again in the future, but I'm going to thank you for what the knowledge you've shared and the passion that you've shared. No, more importantly, the love that you've shared with us all today. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Now, Lady Chelsea, that was quite a program, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it was. It was.
Let our contributors go now. Let them go now. Yeah. But if I may, Lady Chelsea, we've got to make sure we keep climate change on our agendas henceforth. And every so often when we turn to this subject, our peoples, okay? So, they're clearly an important subject for our people. But before I go, I just want to make a quick mention of the Black Poppy Rose campaign, and of course Sister Selina Carty, who was on this program not too long ago. And of course, many of you will be aware here in Britain, it's Remembrance Sunday. I want to give a big shout out for the opening of a new monument in Brixton tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So those of you who could be in Brixton at 11 o'clock, the African Caribbean War Memorial will be opened up in Wilmarsh Square. I wish to encourage those of you who are able to come along to that occasion. And I also wish to encourage those of you who are able to give support to the Black Poppy Rose campaign, which is a campaign to support those ex-service women and men who have been forgotten largely by Britain, but we haven't forgotten them. And of course, the Black Poppy Rose campaign is to raise money in support of those ex-service men and women. And I want to remind people that this organisation is wholly funded by the community. And is solely concerned with supporting those who are ex-service women and men. So we should support it. The Black Poppy Rose campaign. If you put it into your search engine, the website's there. Please give generously. Hope that hopefully is enough. Lady Chelsea, what a program. What a program. It's 10 o'clock now. Thank you all for your listening ears. Lady Chelsea, your words?
Thank you for joining us.
She's always pretend to be surprised. Thank you all. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Lady Chelsea. Thank you, Galaxy, for being around for another 35 years. Please stay Rastafari.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.